You have dedicated and focused your work in an area that I think is so important because I think families in America are under attack from so many different angles. And I'll talk about that as we go along. But you talk about something called conscious parenting. Tell us what you mean by that.
Conscious parenting really, to me, is the answer for most of the troubles we're seeing today. And what it entails is the parent realizing the power they have in their influence and their connection over their children, but that they can lose that power if they muddy the parenting waters with misplaced expectations, with distraction, with lack of presence, with lack of inner wholeness. So from their own childhood, if they are still holding wounds or emotional scars that are unhealed, then that will obstruct their ability to truly connect with their children. And I believe that's what's missing in our families today. The parents' ability to pay attention, to be present, to be focused, and to know how to connect to these beings that we call children. And I think the influx of social media and all the fast-paced culture that we're absorbed in is really distracting our parents even more than before. So conscious parenting is about the parent realizing that their state of consciousness has such a deep impact on their children. And therefore, the first person they need to raise is themselves.
And I've often said, we're not raising children, we're raising adults. Everything your child will ever be, they're now becoming right now.
Exactly.
Whatever they're going to be ultimately when they grow up in terms of their character, their values, their personalities, that's all obtaining right now. And so whether it's third grade, fourth grade, fifth grade, middle school, whatever, these parents are writing on the slate of who that child's going to become. And you're bringing up a great point. If they're not paying attention to what they're writing on that slate, if they're not paying attention to how they're engaging and role modeling for that child, then they're really crippling that child for later in life. That's what you're saying when you say, parent, you got to raise yourself first. You got to get yourself ready to do this important job.
Absolutely. And we don't realize as parents how pivotal that moment by moment by moment in the here and now connection is, especially in the first 10 to 15 years of the child's life. And we miss those moments. And it's okay. It's part of being ordinary and imperfect. But if we miss too many moments and we don't seize the opportunities to truly plant in those seeds, then how is that child going to suddenly miraculously emerge into a resilient, empowered, worthy being? It's not going to happen by magic. It's this intricate sowing moment by moment that happens that parents need to show up for. And if they are stressed and burdened and overwhelmed and living in paranoia and fear and anxiety, then they're going to obstruct their capacity to do that very seminal, invaluable work in the child's childhood.
I've said to parents so many times, you're not going to be the only voice in your child's ear. So you better be the best voice in your child's ear. There can be a lot of people talking to that child through the media, social media, their friends, outside influences. So you better be a clarion voice. You better be the best voice. I feel that more and more strongly today than I did 30 years ago, because I think there's more noise competing for that child's attention. What do you think is the parent's biggest challenge in being that best voice in your child's ear right now? Is it their deficits? Is it overcoming all that other noise? What's the biggest challenge that parents face right now?
It's complex, but I will say that it's also quite simple. So the simple part of it is this. When your child is between the ages of 0 to 7, you have, I don't want to say complete, but pretty much total power to create not the child, but the conditions within which your relationship can be foundationally imprinted upon. you do have that influence in those early years. However, it's the law of diminishing returns. Every year after that, you now are competing more now than when you and I were parents of our young children than ever before. I feel sorry in the most compassionate way for young parents, because it's kind of a doom and gloom reality out there in terms of the excessive stimulation our children are exposed to. But the early first 6 years, 7 years are yours. So I often tell young parents, do not miss this window. It is a profound window. It is a window where your children are easily willing, able, capable of connecting to you in a way that will be imprinted upon them for life. They will never forget it. But if you don't seize that power you have in the most benevolent way, not in a tyrannical way, then you will lose that window. And there are windows, and that is the first foray into that deep connection that can be bonded and forged with your children. But after that, we are meant to release our children out into the world more and more and more. But in today's world, we have to be aware that we are releasing them to a constant stream of insane distraction. So therefore, that connection we forge with them creates the influence we can have with them. We may not have as much control today, but we continue to have as much influence if we do the work to create that connection, right? So that means we have to show up. We have to be that safe harbor for our children. We have to demonstrate trust and reverence and respect for who it is they are, so they come to us, right? If we are constantly critiquing them and being critical and shaming them, then they're going to distance from us. So the ingredients are quite simple, even though we're living in an increasingly complex world.
I love the way you describe that, because you're right. In those first years, they think that mom and dad get up 30 minutes before they do and let the sun out, right?
Right.
The parents are the whole world, and they're not embarrassed to be seen with their parents. They don't want to get dropped off a block away from where they're going. They're okay to walk with you and play games with you. And that is a window of influence where we can install some values and beliefs, like you say, not in a tyrannical way, but just that's your chance to have their undivided attention and really show them, here's who we are. These are the things we think and feel and value. But there's going to come a time where there's a lot of competition all of a sudden when they start going to school and they're exposed to friends and teachers, and then social media starts getting in there, and television and all of those sorts of things. So let's talk about that next phase. If we've got a lot of parents or grandparents now that are listening, and those first 6 or 7 years are gone, and they're dealing with children that now are in this media-rich environment where they are bombarded with overstimulation, what's the parent's best strategy to maintain an open line of communication and influence with kids that are out of that first window?
So as our children grow older, it is a pivotal part of their development that they take risks, that they defy us, that they individuate, right? In psychology, it's called individuation. It is healthy for our children to do so. However, the world we live in today is not yesterday's world, where there was this healthy individuation into a healthy peer group. Now, the peer group is spread across a social media platform, or many, where they're strangers. So parents need to be savvy and first understand the risks and rewards of social media and this world that our children are now going to step into, that they actually think is their social scene. Like children will say, I have 5,000 friends. No, you don't have 5,000 friends. But this is how children talk today. So parents need to be aware of the tremendous risk of this illusion called social media and how toxic it can be for a child's self-esteem. And the only way that parents can combat the influence is if they fully understand its dangers in their own life and see their own addictions. So I often tell parents, and this may not be popular, that no screens till teens, at least, because the brain is still developing and children cannot handle this constant dopamine influx. I tell parents that it's like giving your kid crack cocaine at 13. So limit it, have strong boundaries, be unpopular with your child. It's okay. Meet with the other friends' parents and develop a council. Now that's what parents have begun doing, that they all agree to not have social media when they're on a play date or when they're at the birthday party. So you can join together to have some buffers for your children. But again, leaving social media aside, in this next phase of development, it's really important for parents to show up as that safe harbor. What that means is you, as your child grows up, you have to step out of center stage into backstage, but you still are a powerful prop, a guide, an usher, a backbone. But that's what you need to be. It's this delicate dance of allowing your children to fall and fail because they must do it so they can practice what it means to get up. But you are there as the backup plan, and a strong backup plan, a plan where they want to return to, where they want to come back home to. So that means you have to watch yourself when you're overly sermonizing your children, overly lecturing your children, overly judging and critiquing your children. You know, my daughter is 20 right now, and I know you have adult children. Man, I cannot say one judgmental thing from a place of unconsciousness because she'll catch me right away. And she'll say to me, Mom, you're projecting onto me. That's the curse of having a psychologist's daughter. Mom, back off. These are your expectations. Mom, I'm not living your life. Children are so savvy these days, and rightly so, in a healthy way. And what they're saying to us parents is that I need you to listen to me, to respect my opinions, and then guide me from a place that serves my essence and my authenticity and not yours, right? So we parents have so much to pay attention to in this next phase of development.